Season of the Haunted is the newest season inside Destiny 2, and has been for well over a month now. Last video I sat down with you guys and went over 15 must-have weapons from this season, which if you haven't watched that video, I'll leave a link in the description. This video, however, I want to do something different. Instead of limiting ourselves to only new weapons and going over what's the best, today I want to talk about the top 15 weapons that are the most popular this season for PvE. Of course, this is done by using data collected by Destiny Tracker, as their site can actually track usage rates to determine which weapons are the most popular at any given time, so we're going to be filtering by PvE specifically and going from there. Do remember that just because a weapon is featured in this video doesn't mean it's necessarily the best out there. This is purely based on what people are using the most as opposed to what is actually the best. Although, spoiler alert, the community for the most part is using some pretty damn good weaponry. Anyways, as always, before we jump into it, if you're looking for a channel completely dedicated to anything and all things PvE related here inside Destiny 2, then feel free to drop a sub to the channel, as well as like today's video to support the content. And without further ado, let's jump into this. Kicking off today's video, we have a weapon that I can't say I was expecting to see on the list, but nonetheless, here at number 15, we have the Tears of Contrition Scout Rifle, with a 1.17 usage rate across the community. This 180 kinetic is found from the new nightmare containment activity on the Leviathan, and if I had to guess, the only reason it makes an appearance in today's video is because of recency bias. I know we have champion mods for scouts this season, and hell, I even recommended the scout as an honorable mention in my last video, but I just don't think this weapon is truly good enough to be a top 15 contender in terms of popularity. While this weapon is craftable and can get a great roll of triple tap and explosive payload, it's still a 180 at the end of the day, which usually isn't as good as its 200 RPM brethren like Nightwatch, for example. Regardless, it's still a decent option for those without a Nightwatch, or maybe those that missed out on a hung jury of times past. Tears of Contrition is a fantastic weapon, just not one that I personally think is deserving a top 15, especially when 𝗁𝗏𝗏 is a much better weapon overall, and sadly enough, is nowhere to be found in today's video. Here at number 14, we have my all-time favorite weapon this season, the Duality exclusive SMG Unforgiven, coming in at a usage rate of 1.27%. This weapon is the epitome of what a Void SMG should be, as it perfectly leans into the strengths of the subclass at every turn. You already know where I'm going with this: volatile rounds. This feature of Void 3.0 can only be accessed by not only using a Void weapon, but getting a grenade kill first to activate the buff. Unforgiven conveniently is both Void and can roll Demolitionist, but that's not all. Instead of Demo being a main perk on the weapon, it's simply a supporting perk in the first column, which can then be combined with Golden Tricorn for the highest damage boost possible, Frenzy for a 15% damage boost plus reload, or even Repulsor Brace for added survivability. The base stats on this SMG are pretty bad, however, so a near 5 out of 5 is crucial for the weapon feeling at its best, and because of this, I recommend range and stability on the barrel in the form of small bore, and for the mag, either flared magwell or light mag, combined with a reload masterwork. Unforgiven is an absolute monster of an SMG, and the day I get my perfect roll is the day I can die happy. And if you want to see me grind endlessly and hate myself for hours on end, perhaps check out the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DemonJoe, link in the description. Okay, just had to do that quick plug, on to the next weapon. Here at number 13, we have the Dares of Eternity Halo Energy Sword, the Half-Truths, with a usage rate of 1.32%. Why is it in the top 15, you may ask?
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Anyways, moving on over to number 12, here we have the Crate 720 RPM Stasis Auto Rifle with a usage rate of 1.42%. This weapon comes from the World Loot Pool, and fun fact, when I started playing Witch Queen last season, I landed a 5 out of 5 roll on this thing before I could even finish the first mission, and since then, I've been in love. This weapon, in my humble opinion, is the best kinetic slot auto rifle in the game, and can just get a multitude of rolls, making it pretty great. Between Overflow, Stats for All, and Subsistence in the first column, and Headstone, One for All, and Vorpal in the second, you definitely have a lot of variety to go with here to pair with Stasis Synergy. It also rolls with one of the best origin traits in the game, Vice Stinger, which alone can make the magazine feel damn near endless at times. Crate is an absolute gem of an auto rifle, and I'm super happy to see it on the list as an auto rifle connoisseur myself. Moving on to our our first exotic for today's video, here at number 11 we have the 𝗍𝗔𝗔𝗍 kinetic SMG, which is craftable at the Enclave. This weapon comes in at a usage rate of 1.61%, and honestly, who is even surprised this weapon is on the list? 𝗍𝗔𝗍 was an instant classic within the community the second people got their hands on it, and nothing has changed. What makes this weapon special is the fact that it's not a traditional hit scan SMG. Instead, it shoots projectiles with time travel that track enemies and can spread poison to others, and with the catalyst, those poison final blows can also return ammo back into the magazine. If you're a warlock, you can also pair this with necrotic grips to just have yourself a wild ad clear build with the least amount of effort needed. Moving on from 𝗍𝗔𝗍𝗍 and over to number 10, we make our way over to a weapon that really shouldn't be here, and that is the 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 rocket launcher with a usage rate of 1.63%. Now, this rocket was absolutely meta for about 3 months straight due to it being craftable, as well as it having intrinsic tracking on top of really good perks. This rocket combined with Izanagi was an absolute powerhouse, but nowadays, essentially the modern DPS meta just comes down to bait and switch Cataclysmic or a firing line Storm Chaser. 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏's archetype saw a nerf this season, causing it to have 20% less damage comparatively to other rockets in different archetypes like adaptives and aggressives. And with linears being so easy to use, Izanagi rocket isn't exactly the most desirable DPS strat currently. I think 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 might be seeing popularity inside less demanding content, stuff that isn't raids and whatnot, but I'm still surprised to see it this high on the list nonetheless, given how much of a fall it's had from grace. Onward to number 9, here we have a weapon that 150% is only on here for nostalgia reasons, as well as recency bias, and that is the 𝗏stringer 140 kinetic hand cannon from the Leviathan. With a usage rate of 1.8%, I'm baffled it makes its way into the top 10 because frankly, it sucks compared to other options in the kinetic slot. When evaluating 𝗏stringer inside of a bubble of its own, it's honestly not that bad of a weapon. Rolling with triple tap or outlaw with demo, rampage, and frenzy, hey, that's not too terrible. But when compared to so many different options in the kinetic slot, like the Fatebringer, which can roll dual damage perks and one of those acting as a reload perk, then we have the Judgment, which can get demo and time payload / osmosis for grenade and subclass 3.0 builds, or even the 𝐼𝑠 Luna, which is the best ad clear hand cannon in the game due to its synergy with stasis fragments and headstone. It really makes you wonder what place in the sandbox 𝗏stringer holds. And spoiler alert, it doesn't hold one at all. This weapon is popular, sure, but isn't an actual top option inside PvE? No, not even close. Moving on from 𝗏stringer into our second exotic of the video, here at number 8 we have everybody's favorite chainsaw sword, the Lament. Coming in at a usage rate of 2.06%, Lament continues to dominate the community in terms of popularity. But why is that? Well, aside from just being an excellent sword overall, having built-in anti-barrier and all that jazz, duality as a dungeon may have something to do with its surge in popularity. Anyone that's running the new dungeon knows that if you're at the 𝗁𝗏 encounter and want a stupid easy one phase on the boss, grab 2 other buds on damage supers and slap them on Lament, and literally just left click 𝗨𝗏𝗓 until he perishes. I'm sure if duality wasn't out, Lament would still hold a spot in the top 15, but as for it being number 8, the 𝗁𝗏 damage strat is my best guess for its placement, as it's super easy and effective. Up next, here at number 7, we have everybody's favorite neighborhood spider SMG, the Funnel Web. This world loot weapon comes in at a usage rate of 2.4%, and for good reason. Funnel Web is essentially Recluse if Recluse was never a pinnacle weapon, and instead just a normal legendary. With a role like Subsistence Frenzy, a great RPM, good base stats, one of the best origin traits, and synergies with Void 3.0, there isn't much not to love on this thing. It's the baseline of what an SMG should be, and has easily earned its spot so high on the list. Although I like Unforgiven more personally, Funnel Web is a much more available weapon for the Common Guardian, and is a respectable choice for anyone that decides to use it. Up next, here at number 6 for the video, I might make some enemies saying what I'm about to say, but here goes nothing. Here at number 6, we have the Submission Kinetic SMG from Vow of the Disciple. With a usage rate of 2.47%, I'm absolutely blown away that more people are using this thing than Funnel Web. It just doesn't make much sense to me. Now, Submission isn't a bad weapon by any means, I want to make that very clear. I personally have one that's crafted with fully maxed out enhanced perks and everything, and I very much enjoy the weapon. But is it just me, or are kinetic primaries just slowly getting more and more power crept if they're not stasis? I mean, think about it. The only thing they do better than elemental weapons is provide the most unnoticeable damage increase against enemies without shields, and that's it. They get no subclass synergy, no special perks that are tied to its element, and can't be used for build crafting 9 out of 10 times unless they have osmosis. Look, I'm not saying that kinetic primaries have no use in the game, because they absolutely do, but after Stasis and these subclass 3.0 reworks, I just don't see a point in using them most of the time. Even when I'm doing in-game content like Grandmasters and I'm using Divinity, I just substitute my kinetic slot with a special weapon and use a machine gun as my primary. Like I said, nothing against Submission, it's a craftable weapon, 900 RPM, great perks like Overflow Frenzy and all that jazz, but number 6, above Funnel Web, y'all are tripping. Anyways, moving on from number 6, we finally find our way into the top 5, and what better way to kick things off than the Forbearance Waveframe GL. With a massive usage rate of 2.55%, this Val the Disciple weapon makes its way onto the list in a fashion. Essentially, think of a weapon that can shoot a deadly wave across the ground, load 2 in the mag at the same time, and spontaneously combust enemies on death. You, my friend, have the Ambitious Assassin Chain Reaction Forbearance. This is pretty much one of the best ad clear weapons in the entire game, and it's pretty disgusting just how good it is. If you're a fan of the Salvager Salvo, then you'll most definitely be in love with this bad boy. It's by far one of the best offensive GLs in the game, and 100% deserving of the top 5. Anyways, here at number 4, we have yet another banger of a weapon, the Storm Chaser Linear Fusion from the Duality Dungeon. This weapon clocks in at a whopping 3.36% usage rate and is the standard DPS weapon in the game right now. With roles like Clown or Rapid Hit combined with Firing Line or Frenzy, this weapon is quite the perk selection that you'd want on your linear fusion. Combine that with it belonging to a unique 3-burst archetype that deals insane amounts of damage, and you can see why it works so well. Unlike the next best linear Cataclysmic, you don't have to actually raid for Storm Chaser, nor do you have to do any extra steps to squeeze out bonus damage, like with Cataclysmic's bait and switch role, making Storm Chaser a stupid easy weapon to use, while also being incredibly effective. Moving on from number 4, we have a very surprising one for me, and that is the one and only Gjallarhorn Exotic Rocket Launcher from the Grasp of Avarice dungeon. Gjallarhorn comes in at a usage rate of just under 5%, and honestly, I'm kinda surprised it's not higher. Gjallarhorn is essentially everything you could want in a heavy weapon. You want really good ad clear? Gjallarhorn has you covered. How about good damage against beefy targets? G-Horn has that box checked. Or how about a utility weapon that provides bonus damage to all other rocket launchers in your fire team? Again, Gjallarhorn is what you want. With Gjallarhorn being the single most recognizable weapon in the Destiny franchise, I can't exactly be surprised that it's in the top 3, but I genuinely am surprised that it's not 1 or 2 places higher given its legacy and lethality. Regardless, top 3 is no easy feat, and Gjallarhorn conquered it with ease. Up here next at the number 2 spot, we have my favorite exotic weapon in all of the Destiny franchise, the Witherhoard Exotic Grenade Launcher. This exotic kiosk GL clocks in at a usage rate of 5.3%, and it's gotta be one of the greatest things to have ever existed in Destiny. Ever. If you somehow don't already know, this weapon fires a taken blight ball that can stick to an enemy to deal damage over time, and if it ends up killing the enemy before it times out, that blight can then fall on the ground and create a damage AoE puddle until it dissipates. That, or you can just shoot the floor with it on purpose like in Vaulted Glass to cover doorways that enemies come out of, or just however you want to use it. Combine that with the catalyst for this weapon making it auto-load whenever it's in your back pocket, Witherhoard stands tall as the official exotic of, I don't know what to use, so I guess I'll slap on Witherhoard. Or at least that's how I use it personally. It's all reliable, and it's damn good at being effective at what you use it for. It's more than deserving to be at the number 2 spot, but only one weapon can hold number 1, and that weapon, my friends, is the Callous Mini Tool from the Leviathan. This weapon finds itself at just under a 6% usage rating, and given the whole theme of the season as well as the very potent Solar 3.0 artifact mods, Callous Mini Tool totally makes sense as the most used weapon in the season thus far. Rolling with the new perk Incandescent, Mini Tool is the pinnacle of ad clear in the game right now for primary weapons. Combine that with its ability to roll Unrelenting in the first column for heals when in a pinch, as well as the weapon being craftable, and you have yourself an absolute banger that is of course going to get lots of use from the community. It absolutely will fall off in popularity as time goes on and we make our way into new seasons and whatnot, but I think overall, Callous Mini Tool will stay a staple of the SMG world, as not only is it just a really good weapon, but it's definitely the best solar SMG in the game, and it absolutely deserves that number 1 spot. Anyways, with all that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for today's video. We went over the top 15 most popular PvE weapons in Season of the Haunted, and I gotta say, this video is pretty fun to make. I'll of course have a link to Destiny Tracker in the description if you guys want to keep up with weapon popularity as the season progresses, as it's always fluctuating, and by the time you check their website when this video goes up, there's probably already some differences than what you saw today. That aside though, thank you all so much for watching and supporting the content. I truly do appreciate it, everyone. And as always, a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters, and shout out to my tier 2s, Homebase, Onrock, Admis, Vile, and John, as well as my tier 3s, 𝘁𝗵𝗄, Austin, and 𝗵𝗑𝗓𝗄𝗓. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.